No, nothing good starts in a getaway car.
It was the best of times, the worst of crimes. I struck a match and blew your mind, but I didn't mean it, and you didn't see it. The ties were black, the lies were white, in shades of grey and candlelight. I wanted to leave him, I needed a reason. X marks the spot where we fell apart. He poisoned the well, I was lying to myself. I knew it from the first, old-fashioned, we were cursed. We never had a shotgun shot in the dark. You were driving the getaway car, we were flying, but we never get far. Don't pretend it's such a mystery. Think about the place where you first met me. Riding in a getaway car, there were sirens in the beat of your heart. Should've known I'd be the first to leave. Think about the place where you first met me. In a getaway car, no, they never get far. No, nothing good starts in a getaway car. The great escape, the prison break, the light of freedom on my face, but you weren't thinking, and I was just drinking. Well, he was running after us, I was screaming, go, go, go. But with three of us, honey, it's a sideshow, and a circus ain't a love story. And now we're both sorry, we're both sorry. X marks the spot where we fell apart. He poisoned the well, every man for himself. I knew it from the first, old-fashioned, we were cursed. It hit you like a shotgun shot to the heart. You were driving the getaway car, we were flying, but we never get far. Don't pretend it's such a mystery. Think about the place where you first met me. Riding in a getaway car, there were sirens in the beat of your heart. Should've known I'd be the first to leave. Think about the place where you first met me. In a getaway car, no, they never get far. No, nothing good starts in a getaway car. We were jet set, Bonnie and Clyde, until I switched to the other side, to the other side. It's no surprise I turned you in, 'cause us traitors never win. I'm in a getaway car, I left you in the motel bar, put the money in a bag and I stole the keys. That was the last time you ever saw me. Driving the getaway car, we were flying, but we never get far. Don't pretend it's such a mystery. Think about the place where you first met me. Riding in a getaway car, there were sirens in the beat of your heart. Should've known I'd be the first to leave. Think about the place where you first met me. In a getaway car, no, they never get far. No, nothing good starts in a getaway car. I was riding in a getaway car, I was crying. In a getaway car, I was dying. In a getaway car, said goodbye. In a getaway car, riding. In a getaway car, I was crying. In a getaway car, I was dying. In a getaway car, said goodbye. In a getaway car.
Well, let me tell you something, fellas. Let me just be very crystal clear with you. This concept of mocking Taylor Swift will not stand. It's here. I don't care. I don't care anymore. You guys know how I feel about music snobs. I can't stand them. The idea that that is not good music, that is great pop music. It just simply is. It just simply is. It doesn't have to be your cup of tea. You don't have to like it, but just to poo-poo it because it's got a little uplift. I'll tell you what, most of the audience for this show, going by statistics, are male. Man, I'll tell you what, I don't know if it's genetics. I don't know if I just got lucky. I don't know if it was the way I was raised. I am so glad not to be typical male when it comes to pop culture. Because it's like you can't enjoy it. It's almost like it's the same thing a lot of men are like, we can't cry. we can't enjoy anything that's positive. It's always got to be aggressive. It's like, you know what? Sometimes you just want to fucking roll the windows down and drive down the freeway going real fast, like 60 miles an hour. Yeah, that's fast for me. Shut up, you fuckers. Welcome to Gavin Games. I appreciate you being here. It is, what is today? I don't fucking know. It's some September day. Oh, September 12th. Yes, September 12th. It's good to see everybody. There is a lot of news this week. There is a lot of news this week, and we're going to talk a little bit about it. We're going to talk about the Sony State of Play. We're going to talk about the Nintedo Direct. We're going to talk about the Tokyo Game Show schedule. We're going to get into that. I want to tell you real quick something I did yesterday. And I had never done this before. Okay, so this is, anyone who has done this, you're going to be like, yeah, Jeffy, that's nothing new about that. But, and it is Mutant Mo, National Video Games Day. Happy, National Video Games Day. I'm not going to try to sell you on Dungeons and Dragons. And I certainly am not going to try to get you to watch our stream of Dungeons and Dragons. I have to assume watching other people play D&D is staggeringly dull, right? And I have the stats on yesterday's stream to prove it. But that said, I had never played this before. And at a game design level, boy, this was something. I had heard about it. It wasn't that I didn't know what D&D was. I had the books and the modules when I was a kid, but I just never had anybody to play with. My friends group was just like, yeah, and I didn't understand the percentage tables, so I couldn't DM it. So we never got around to it. So finally yesterday, we get some of the Gavin Game members. We hire this great dungeon master, and we say, let's fucking do it. And I just want to, I'm not going to get into details on it because it'll bore you, but I just want to tell you the coolest part about it. Anybody who follows me in the stream and my blog and all that over the years knows that the whole reason I got into video games is because my fantasy is, and I won't live to see it, I want to go to the holodeck. I want to step into a fantasy world and have these amazing adventures, right? Well, as much as I love Elden Ring, as much as I love RPGs, as much as I love action games, nothing in my life as a game has ever come as close as D&D did to making me feel like I was immersed in the story. And like I said, I'm not telling you anything you don't know, even if you've never played it, but understanding it and experiencing it are two very different things. And to play D&D with a great dungeon master like we had, who literally has planned for seemingly everything, and then on top of it can improv. So I'll just give you an example. I mean, it's not like in a game where you're like, I want to try this. Game won't let you try that. You know what I mean? It just feels like, it breaks the immersion. We're sitting in a tavern. I think it was a house or some such shit. And there's this lady in a wheelchair and she's got this big half giant bodyguard. And we decide we want to kill the lady and take her bodyguard. And it turns out that the bodyguard has a life contract with the old lady. So he can't do anything except serve her. So we pull her out of the chair. This is not in the story. This is just us coming up on the fly. Hey, let's try this. We pull the old lady out of the chair. We tie her to the back of the giant. And now we're like, okay, well, we're going to kill you if you don't do what we tell you, old lady. So you and the giant are now coming with us. Suddenly, and the DM just writes the story around that. And suddenly our party can kind of see him down there on the screen there. I mean, again, visually speaking, it's all happening in your head. This is just kind of, iconographic, so you get a sense of positioning and whatnot. But the story is like you're living it, and it is such a delight. And I highly recommend you give D&D a play. RPG says, AD&D, I had one of the most memorable adventures. To this day, it beats any video games I've played. Right? I mean, again, I'm not like poo-pooing video games. Right when I was done, I went and played a bunch of Elden Ring until I fell asleep last night. But I'm just saying that sense of being in the world I had never experienced before. And anybody younger than me, which I imagine is most people watching this show, are going to get to live long enough, I hope, as will I a little bit, to start to experience a little bit more of this creeping into video games with AI. Dungeons and Dragons Wizard of the Coast is actually coming out with I think they call it 1D&D, which is sort of if what you're looking at here, which is sort of the template that the DM had that he just bought off a Patreon member. D&D is going to have an official Unreal 5 engine that Dungeon Masters can use to basically tell their stories, but with like state-of-the-art visuals and stuff. So if you've never played and you want to play, we're going to be playing again. So consider becoming a member and playing with us, or just find your own friends. You don't even have to know them. Just go find people online. There's whole groups you can find online to play. I highly recommend it. I highly recommend it. Trey Trimble says, Jaffe, AI is so insane. Have you heard of Midjourney? Oh yeah. Midjourney is where you enter in any text and it spits out artwork. It's staggering to look at. And then I've seen one that does animation. And I mean, I've seen one that does storytelling, but it's not very good. But the visual of Way Forward, and there's another one called like Dolly 2. Yeah, absolutely stunning. Craig says, I still have no idea how this works. Does the DM just decide when you win and lose? No, the DM serves as two purposes briefly. The first one is a computer, right? So he's got all these stats and things, and he's got all these die, and he'll roll die when it makes sense to roll die. Like, hey, I want to go walk on this bridge. And the DM's like, you can do it, but it's rickety. You have dexterity. Let's roll a dexterity check and see what happens. So Rob goes out on the rickety bridge and he fails the dexterity check and he falls through the bridge and he's hanging there. And I turned out to be a sorcerer that had a spell called Mending. And suddenly I'm like, hey, what if we walked out there to Rob, but everywhere I'm walking, I mend the bridge behind me. So it stabilizes it. And the DM, that doesn't have to be rolled. That's just the spell. He's like, yep, that would work. So it's not that he's like win or lose. It's that he crafts the story and then he watches over it to make sure that it's fun and moving along and it's twisting and turning based on the improvs. Fuck you, Mr. K. Mr. K says fucking nerd. Let me tell you one more thing. We're going to move off D&D. We're going to get to video games. But this guy, and again, I don't have any Dungeon Masters to compare it to. But this guy, we were in a basement of the tavern and there was blood everywhere and they had been torturing an elf people who were there before and there were elf ears scattered around and shit. And there was like a sewer hole. And it just looked like it was nothing. It's just like, yeah, it's too small to get in. You drop a light down there, you just see a bunch of shit. It smells terrible, whatever. But then one of the members, it might have been Rob or Matt, I don't remember, maybe it was Spasbo, is just like, let's grab this pickaxe and make the hole bigger so we can fit in, right? So the hole gets bigger and the entire party throws a rope down there and fuck you, Tim Rob, you piece of shit. He says, OMG, boring. You're boring. Your mom's vagina is boring. Yes, I got him. Got him, fellas. So Mario says that Dungeon Master is a better game director than Bonnie Ross. She's not a game director. We'll get to that story in a minute. But what I was going to say is, so we drop a rope down the hole and I'm like, okay, there's not going to be any art here. The DM, there's no way he thought of that. The motherfucker thought of that. The motherfucker thought of that. And there's a whole art of underground in the tavern. You didn't even have to go that way. And he's like, no, I've got it all planned out. There was a boss down there. It was awesome. Oh, Tim Rob, I don't give a fuck. Say it's boring if you want to. Look, Tim Rob, if you want to say D&D is boring, that's fine. But you may as well wear a shirt that says, I have no imagination and I only do the missionary position in bed because I can't fathom anything more interesting than what the people on the TV shows tell me what to do and what is normal. That's fine. That's fine, you piece of shit. Yes, I got him again. All right. It was Rob the Mod. Rob Mod's a great game. 616, hey, buddy. He says he's been a member for 21 months, man. You know I appreciate that. Thank you, good sir. He says, what a moment to walk in on. Goodness gracious. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. All right. Let us move forward, though. Let us talk about some big news coming up this week in the world of the video games. Just announced before we went live, PlayStation is doing State of Play tomorrow. Of course, I will be streaming it. 3 o'clock California time, 6 o'clock New York time. Nothing else matters. New York and LA. That's it. What else is there? It's a 20-minute, I think it's a 20-minute or a 40-minute, 20-minute State of Play. PlayStation tweets this out. A lot of people were understandably expecting, hey, God of War, Spider-Man 2, Wolverine, whatever. But then PlayStation follows up the tweet and says, we'll have some great updates from our amazing Japanese partners and developers all around the world. Expect about 20 minutes covering 10 upcoming games. So you got each game roughly gets 2 minutes. This is not going to be a God of War showcase. This is not going to be a Spider-Man 2 showcase. This is probably going to be a bunch of second party games from different countries, as well as games like what's that great looking game we haven't heard from in a while that's a PS5 exclusive in the short term. I don't think it's permanently a PS5 exclusive. Is it Little Devil Inside, or is that what it's called? The very cool art style. So maybe we'll see that. Somebody in the chat help me out. Let me know what that is. Is it called Little Devil Inside? I bet we'll see that horror game from the fellas that I'm sorry, I'm reading the chat trying to see what it's called. It's going to be Japanese. Well, it says Japanese partners and developers around the world. The Devil Inside Me, says Wrathy, something like that. Okay. The other one I think we'll see is it called Slitherhead or whatever? That's the horror game made by the Siren guys and some of the Silent Hill guys that left Sony Studio proper and went off to form their own video game developer. I bet we'll see that. I don't know if we'll see any Forspoken. Slitherhead, that's what it's called. Those are the two that I think are locks. I don't think we're going to see any big things tomorrow. Like, I don't think we're going to see, if there's a Silent Hill, we're not going to see. I could be wrong, but I don't think so, because all these other games, even Forspoken, feel like those are bigger announcements than something they would just drop amongst 10 games. But I don't know. I know nothing about this. So I'm just guessing with the rest of you. What I will say, though, is, wasn't it 2 weeks ago, or maybe it was a week ago, Konami was making some news saying that this past week they will be unveiling a game based on an IP that's beloved around the world. Did that ever happen? Is that the only thing I can think of is that there is Castlevania DLC coming to Brawlhalla, and I was like, that's the big announcement. Francisco says there was a Suikoden. I don't know how you say it. I've played the first couple ones. Okay, it's happening at Tokyo Game Show. Okay, so it has not been announced yet. So it's possible it could be here or at TGS. So anyway, we will be streaming this tomorrow. We will also be streaming this tomorrow. If somebody wanted to know what the highlighted thing said from Sony, it just says, we'll have some great updates from our amazing Japanese partners and developers around the world. Expect around 20 minutes covering 10 upcoming games. Okay, Nintendo is also dropping a state of play, or actually Nintendo Direct tomorrow. There were some interesting people were like, oh, we're not going to live stream it because of respect for the Queen. I'm like, again, I'm in America, so I don't really get the big fucking deal about the Queen, but clearly it means a lot to a lot of people. So that seemed like a nice little tip of the hat from the Japanese folks, the UK folks. But this will be happening tomorrow. They haven't given a time yet. This is also, there's a woman, I don't know how you become a respected Nintendo insider, but according to Video Games Chronicle, respected Nintendo insider Emily Rogers has said, hey, this Nintendo Direct looks like it's dropping, from what she understands, tomorrow early in the morning, Pacific time. She says the last time that happened, what it was a bunch of minis. And I know that Nintendo has been doing, from time to time, they'll announce ahead of time, like, hey, we're doing a Nintendo Direct of indies. So I don't know when they say, this is what Emily Rogers says. To be fair, there's a quote, that doesn't guarantee that Tuesday's Direct is a mini. I don't know what that is. Patterns and trends can always be broken. Nintendo's marketing department can break their own rules whenever they want, but I can at least confirm that this Direct will air in the early morning tomorrow. So while we won't be streaming it, we will be talking about it sometime tomorrow, maybe right before the Sony State of Play. So yeah, that's happening at 7 in the morning, says Adam, and the Souza at California time, 10 o'clock New York time. Okay. But yeah, I don't know what the minis mean. I don't understand. Is that just like, what is that? Is that different? Remember, like, PlayStation used to have PlayStation minis on the Vita? I don't think it's that. So I don't know what a mini is, but we'll find out. Well, there's nothing really to stream, Adam, because it's just, they're just going to drop it. So I mean, maybe we'll watch it live. Maybe we'll do a lunch with Jaffe briefly in the Discord and watch it. But I definitely will be streaming the Sony one tomorrow. And then we'll get to some Tokyo Game Show news. Hello, Jarvie. Good to see you, buddy. We'll get to some Tokyo Game Show news tomorrow. Later in the show that opens up this week. Ravno says it's like a 20-minute direct. That is a mini. So you're saying the time, it's not so much the games themselves are mini. You're saying it's a shorter thing. Okay, so in that, maybe they could do a 20-minute presentation on where Breath of the Wild is, or what's the wolf one, the one they're redoing, which I can give a shit about on the Switch, Spirits Within or some such shit. Yes, Adam, I will be streaming Tokyo Game Show stuff. We will be going over that schedule a little bit later today. But first, I want to tell you what's happening with the charts in the UK. This just dropped today. Splatoon opened at number 1. Now this is packaged, right? So this doesn't take into account digital sales. It's all box sales, okay? But it gives you an idea. Now, there's a reason. Look, this is interesting. Number 10, Pokemon Legends. Tell me what these all have in common. Not all, but a lot have in common. Saints Row is still in the top 10, but it's dropped from 6 to 9. It'll be gone by next week. Number 8 is Minecraft on the Switch. Number 7 is Animal Crossing, New Horizons still. 6 is NBA 2K23. 5 is Switch Sports. 4 is Last of Us Part 1, dropping from number 1 last week. 3 is Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. Number 2 is Horizon Forbidden West, which is still up there. A lot of people associate that, or not associate, but a lot of people suggest that's because of the bundle deal, that it's consistently in the top 2, because the channel, as they say, is getting filled with PS5s. It's becoming easier and easier. And Sony has even gone on record and said, hey, we think it's going to be a much easier time getting a PS5 over the holidays. So people who don't have one yet, it's a great fucking system with some great fucking games. And if you have PS Plus, there's some great fucking shit on there. I highly recommend picking one up if you have the means. And then the number 1 game in the UK was Splatoon 3 launching. It didn't do as well as it did Splatoon 2, but it did okay. It did, it's number 1, and what did they say? Last of Us Part 1 dropped 66%, and Splatoon sold a little bit worse than Splatoon 2. Splatoon 3 did. Okay. Here's what's interesting to me about this. You've got 6 of the 4 games all being Nintendo. Slowly, but surely, this chart is starting to look like the goddamn cockadoodie Japanese chart. Japanese chart, other than every now and then Gran Turismo will pop its head in there, is pretty much just Switch games. So part of it is that it's packaged. I imagine most people who are buying packaged games, besides just being collectors, are families and kids, and they're not really downloading games and all that. So I do imagine that this isn't necessarily reflective of the sensibilities of the UK when it comes to what they want to buy at a absolute level, because you don't have the digital, which I think more core gamers and teenagers and adults buy. But we will see. But right now, it's looking like Japan is starting to take a big cut out of the UK as well. The other big news that I thought was interesting, we will talk a little bit later about Steel Rising in the show, which is kind of the Bloodborne-esque, sort of a B-level Bloodborne-esque that was released this week. That came in at number 29. So unless word of mouth, it's got decent reviews. I think it's like a 74 on Metacritic. Unless word of mouth lifts it up, and I will be talking about it because there's something interesting they're doing in that game. I might pick it up this week. I don't think it'll get higher than 29, but that came out and hit at number 29 in the UK. Let me get this very generous super chat from our good friend Buttermilk Mike. Buttermilk Mike, thanks for being a member and dropping the ducats. See what happens when you drop the ducats. I can give him any kind of advice, including medical advice. He says, Chaffee, why does it burn when I pee? Okay, well, the only time it's ever burnt when I've peed, my door's open, my kids are, is when I had the sexy time. And I don't know why this would be the case, but I didn't take the condom off right away. And afterwards, I went to go pee, maybe 10, 15 minutes after. And oh my God, it was the most painful fucking thing in the fucking world. So I had my girlfriend at the time. I said, we got to go to the ER. This is horrifying. And we went there and they said, yeah, sometimes the lubricant on the condom. And I said, I don't need no lubricant, Jack. It's all self-made. He says, yeah, but it comes on the condom. I'm like, all right. He says, sometimes that'll kind of get into the interior, not like because it's broken, but because when they're manufacturing it, it gets sealed inside. And sometimes that will go into your pee-pee hole. And that'll make you pee. And so I said, well, what do I do? He says, you just got to go pee it out. I said, you're shitting me. He says, no. So I went into the hospital bathroom and I stood at the urinal and I was just like, man, I got to do this. It was staggeringly painful. So it could be that. It could be an STD. It could be kidney stones. So how long? I think you're fucking around, but seriously, if it's happening regularly, you should go check it out. All right. Thank you for the super chat, buddy. You know I appreciate it. And for the membership. All right. Some quick news before we get into the big news of the day. This is good news. My buddy's game, David Goldfarb of the EA, he used to work on the Battlefield series. His new company, his brand new company, has a game called Metal Hellsinger that comes out on Game Pass this week, I think Wednesday or Thursday, and PC. I don't know if it's on PS5 yet, but it's getting reviewed. It's dropping. It's getting some very good reviews. On PC, it's sitting at a 79. On Xbox, it's sitting at an 80. Most of the reviews are like 80, 81, 82, and then everything else brings it down. It's a great demo. If you have the means to get the demo, check it out. It's a rhythm-based first-person shooter, which sounds dreadful, but it's not. Like, I hate rhythm-based games. It's not like Guitar Hero with the fucking things coming at the screen. It's a shooter. But if you shoot and fire and reload and all this shit on the rhythm, the song gets cooler, your powers get cooler. It's very, very, very good. It's very, very, very good. So that's Metal Hellsinger. That's out this week. By the way, this is interesting. I'm very interested in this. Let me kick it off by telling you what's coming out this week, and then I want to tell you one of the titles. In fact, I'm gonna ask you to guess. I'm gonna tell you what's coming out this week in video games. There's a lot of minor releases, at least at the moment. But then I'll tell you the one I'm most excited about. You tell me which one you think I'm most excited about. Centro, yes, I've played the Metal Hellsinger demo. It is fantastic. Little Orpheus is coming out. I have no idea what that is. That's coming out tomorrow. Scourgebringer is coming out. I think that's also coming out. No, that's an Android game. X111 13, which is the shooter, the kind of remake shooter, is coming out. You Suck at Parking is coming out. I think that's Game Pass. Bear and Breakfast is already out on the PC, but it's coming out on Switch. Hellsinger's coming out tomorrow, September 15th. For the PS5, Xbox, and PC. Outer Wilds is coming out for the PS5 Series X and S. Why is that on there? That's been out forever. Slipgate is coming out for PS5. Why? Maybe these are updates tomorrow. Wayward Strand is a new game coming out. And then Return to Monkey Island is coming out on Friday. That's interesting. That's interesting. The one that has me most excited, you tell me. Oh, those are next gen upgrades. Gotcha. You tell me which one you think has be most excited. Centro, not Centro. It's the Souza. What did the Souza say? Was the Souza the guy who dropped the chat? Somebody's saying we got. Oh, there we go. You just had kidney stones. Now I have COVID. Jesus Christ, man. And then Craig, who's been a member for 6 months. Thank you, buddy. He says, feel better, the Souza. We have such nice people here in our little show. In our little show, we have such nice people who wish you well. Who wish you well. Jaffe, why are you so sexy, says New York. Just happens. Just kind of happens. The one that has me most excited, I mean, certainly I'm excited for Metal Hellsinger, but I'm excited for 13. Now, you may ask, why would you be excited for a remake that has been pretty much dragged through the mud by critics? In fact, let me see what it's sitting at right now. The remake of 13, it's got to be like a 40, right? X111 Metacritic. Let's see what they gave it. It's sitting at a 39%. And on PC, it's at a 29%. The remake, yes, the cartoon game, Craig Hooligan, but this is the remake of it that came out. Well, here's what happened. This is pretty amazing. This comes out this week. Yes, exactly, Eddie T. Eddie T says they are remaking the remake. They absolutely are. Check it out. So the company that put it out says they're Microids who published it. They said, you know what, we've given it to a different developer to do the update. So they've totally changed the update style, the art style. It's gone back to the comic book look of the original. They've enhanced the AI, reworked the HUD, revamped the sound, and they've added up to 13-player multiplayer. And so suddenly, I mean, when has that ever happened? That maybe Cyberpunk, but a game comes out and they're like, dude, this is terrible. And they're like, we know. And instead of just like taking the loss, they go, fuck it. We're going back in. This deserves to be better. I don't know what motivated this, but it's coming out this week. If you already own it, it's a free update. I think it might be already on, if you have the PS5 and Xbox Series already, it's a free update, which will run at 60 frames. It says that it's on the Switch on that same day, but there's no update because it's the first time it's come out, and that will be running at 30 frames. So I am very excited to keep an eye on this, because if this turns it around, I really enjoyed the first 13, the original, and I'm looking forward to playing the update. Absolutely. Okay, so Eddie T says, oh, okay, I got it. Adam, hey, buddy. He says, Chris Judge, who voices Kratos, Corey Barlog, and another Santa Monica employee retweeted the State of Play tweet, and another SMS employee, quote, retweeted it with an eye emoji. Mean anything? Maybe, maybe not. I mean, you know, Corey likes to poke at the hornet's nest a little bit, and maybe Chris Judge and the other guys are just playing along. Or, I mean, why? No, my guess is no. I could be wrong. I know nothing, but my guess is they're trolling. Because ask yourself, why would PlayStation official quote you and say, we'll have updates from our amazing Japanese partners and devs around the world. Expect 20 minutes covering 10 upcoming games, which basically means every game on average is going to get anywhere from 1 to 2 minutes. This is the biggest game they've had in years coming out, and they're not going to let people know ahead of time, hey, you're into God of War, tune into this motherfucking thing. It's possible, but it doesn't make any sense to me. It doesn't seem any logic there, but you never fucking know. Yeesh. Hang on. Oh, that feels so much better. Oh my God, that's Brandon Martin coming in and joining the Diet Soda Soldiers. Thank you, Brandon Martin. That was a relief that was building up inside of me, sir. And I couldn't get it out, but you are now a member of the Diet Soda Soldiers. Let me give you a smoke of the bubbly in the pipe. There you go. Smoke that. It's filled with love and fecal paste. And everybody who is capable in the chat, please give our good sir friend Brandon Martin an emoticon of your choice. I sure would appreciate that. Thank you, Brandon. Thank you for your support. I really do appreciate that, pal. Fun Speculation says God of War Ragnarok for PC and VR are going to be announced. No, it is not. It is not. Come on now. Come on now. All right, let's move forward in our little adventure through the world of video games. Thank you, members, for giving a warm welcome to Brandon Martin with those nice emojis. I appreciate it. All right. Okay, listen to me. I'm just going to give you some data. But I've said this before. It's just more of the same, but the fact that it's more of the same is fascinating to me. Okay? I don't know what else the people could have done who made this game. I'm not going to tell you what it is yet. I'll tell you in a second. It's on every system you can almost imagine other than cell phone. I'm sure it's coming to cell phone. It's cross-play. It's free to play. It's very well reviewed. It's exciting conceptually, and there's a lot of updates for it. It's also entering into a genre that's not totally packed. It is Multiversus, and it is already starting to collapse. I don't want to blow the whistle too soon, but as of yesterday, it was at 13,451 players from an all-time peak of 153,000 players only a month ago, or a little bit more than about a month ago. Because remember, it was in the beta for a while. And right now, if you go over to the Steam page, it's hanging out at about 12,000. And I don't think that is any negative reflection of the game. I think that is just a reflection of the market being oversaturated with free multiplayer service-based games. There comes a point where unless it's lightning in a bottle again. Unless you know, I've got a guy who keeps hitting me up in the chat all the time whenever I say this on Twitter, sorry. And he's like, no, you can totally backwards engineer these things. Well, okay. If that's the case, then you need to make a shit ton of money offering your services to these companies, because on paper, Multiversus did everything right. And it can't maintain altitude. I'll tell you what, Jim Ryan's doing the right thing, maybe. I mean, listen, you got to be a Steve Jobsian level of smart to understand. If you can look at the tea leaves and you can say the service-based game industry, which yes, makes a shit ton of money, and yes, you need to be a player in that space, but it is getting so difficult to make room in that space, even if your game does everything right, that maybe somebody like at a Steve Jobs level of being able to look forward 5 years from where we are now and go, right, and what's coming next is this, let's throw all in on that, or at least a good percentage, a meaningful percentage of our resources into that. Because what Jim Ryan's doing for Sony is like, hey, we need these games. Let's spend money on 10 of them. But I don't think anybody would have looked at, you know, let's say Multiversus is Sony's version. Let's say Sony has a version of like PlayStation All-Stars, but it's basically Multiversus. It plays as well, looks as good, frequent updates, free. They even put it on PC so you can play it there, put it on cell phone, whatever. I think everybody would say, good job, Jim. That's a good decision. Good green light, pal. I don't know how to explain this. Rob says it's super generic and like Smash Bros, lame and boring. Okay, well, if it's like Smash Bros to the vast majority of the world, it's not lame and boring. And it's not super generic. I mean, I'm sorry, I don't agree with you. It may not be your cup of tea, and I respect that, but it's Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, Gizmo, Beetlejuice, Gandalf, LeBron James, the Scooby-Doo gang. It's you know, people from Game of Thrones. That's not generic. That may be weird, but it's not generic. Playful Musing says it's worth considering fighting games are still niche. The biggest games in the genre like Tekken and Street Fighter have only a few thousand players. Yeah, but let's look up Brawlhalla. Brawlhalla has been, now I don't know where Brawlhalla sits right now in terms of number of players, but Brawlhalla right now literally has basically 10,890. So 11,000 people. They literally have, is it 100 or 1,000 people less in Brawl? Okay, so these guys have 12,000. These guys have 1,000 people less. And Brawlhalla's been out since God knows when. So I understand what you're saying about fighting games being niche, but this is a 2-year-old game. Actually, more than that. That was just their peak 2 years ago. So I don't know. I don't know what's going on. No, not our Rob the Mod didn't say that. It was Rob's son is his name. Luke says, I think they need to come up with unique free-to-play concepts rather than chasing trends because it's an oversaturated market. Sure, but isn't that Multiversus? The only other game, I mean, it is like Smash Bros, but Smash Bros will cost you $60. So the only other game that you can play that's like Smash Bros is Brawlhalla. So it's not like the fighting game genre of brawlers is oversaturated. And they still can't get altitude. So Brian E says if Sony does something like PS All-Stars, I hope they don't do Smash format. No, I'm with you with your next sentence. He says making it like Power Stone makes way more sense. I don't know if it makes more or less sense. I think they both could work very well, but I would be much more interested in a PlayStation style Power Stone. Not that, what's that new game that just came out? The Brawl City, not the Knockout City, the one with the wrestling and grappling battle royale. I don't mean a big battle royale. But like 4-player Power Stone with Sony characters. Yeah, I would be all over that. But I don't know what they're gonna do. I hope they do it though. I hope they fucking do it. Rumbleverse is what that other game is called. Yes. Okay. Okay. Let us move forward though. So anyway, I want to talk about, listen, I will tell you something. I will tell you that I was absolutely not interested. In fact, I didn't even stream it. There was the Ubisoft Forward this weekend. I was like, I don't give a fuck. This boring company, okay? I'm a little bit more interested now because I did watch it, and I was like, there's some interesting announcements they made. Let me kick off one of them, which is not a good announcement, but it is the way of the world. The CEO, Yves Guillemot, has said that, hey, we're going to throw in with Activision, Sony, EA, and Square, and we're going to start charging $70 for the vast majority of our games, all the games that are big. The first one's going to be Skull and Bones, which really, $70 for Skull and Bones. Yeah. Okay. Good luck with that. Assassin's Creed Mirage, which we'll talk about in just a second, that's going to be $50 because it's like a 20-hour game or 15-hour game. And so they're saying they're big, almost, I don't know how they would, maybe like a Valhalla would be a $70 game that just has a lot of launch content, I guess is what they're saying. You've been waiting for Skull and Bones since 2007 RPG. Well, all I can tell you is, maybe it's going to be great, but everything I've seen from that trailers that they put out has been really dull. It looks kind of cool, and then they keep coming back to, and you'll pretty much have the whole game on your ship. And I'm like, yeah, I don't give a fuck about that. Okay. No, I don't think so. Centro says you're probably got bored because you're not into the lore of AC. Well, Assassin's Creed. Let me tell you what's going on. Okay. So here's what they announced. We'll start with Assassin's Creed. And then we'll get to the rest of what Ubisoft showed. This is exciting to me. Okay. This is Assassin's Creed, codename Red. It is feudal Japan. It looks like you play a ninja. He what's the difference between an assassin and a ninja? Whatever, right? But it looks more ninja-esque. The idea of an open world ninja Tenchu big Ubisoft game is really exciting to me. Now, again, their games are bloated, and hopefully they're learning from those mistakes, although Valhalla sold better than any other Assassin's Creed. But Brian says ninja assassins seem redundant in concept. I get that, but there's such a there's such a romanticizing about that period with the ninja that I'm in. Like, I love Tsushima, but it's a samurai. I totally want to be a fucking ninja. Absolutely. So this is pretty exciting. I'm excited for this. That surprised me. Here's the rest of the Assassin's Creed stuff they announced. There's other stuff that's pretty cool in there as well. Assassin's Creed Mirage, I didn't give a shit about until I heard about it. Here's what they say. It's a shorter, more narrative-driven game. So it's not one of these beefy fucking things. It's only going to cost you $50 because it's not one of these big beefy fucking things. I don't know. I know it stars one of the characters, like if you're really into the lore, Basim, who's 17, going back in time, whatever, I don't care. But I like the idea of a more back to basics, kind of like, Prince of Persia, God of War, old school Assassin's Creed adventure that's not this bloated dead whale lying on the ocean that you're never going to finish, or lying on the beach of the ocean that you're never going to finish. So that has me interested. I did have one guy tweet me this week about it because I was like, oh, that looks pretty cool. And he said, oh, well, good luck with that game doing well or something like that, set in Baghdad. And I'm like, I don't understand. Are you saying good luck because it's going back to basics or because it's in Baghdad? And he said, oh, it's Baghdad. Nobody knows what Baghdad is. Nobody knows anything about that. I'm like, Baghdad's like Arabian Nights and shit. I'm not saying there's flying carpets. It's Assassin's Creed, although Assassin's Creed Odyssey got into magic and weird shit. But yeah, I think Mirage is interesting. I think it's very, very interesting. So I was into that. And that'll be out. When is that out? 2023. They didn't give it a date. Okay. Assassin's Creed Red, we talked about already. Assassin's Creed codename Hex. Now, I don't know him that well. Clint Hawking, he was the director of the last Watch Dogs, and then he was the director, I think, on Far Cry 2. He's a very good designer. I've heard him speak at GDC. He's smart, sharp fella. No one's saying what this is about, but it's clear it's about witchcraft. It looks cool. It looks cool because I love witchcraft, and maybe it's the Salem witch trials. I don't know if it's in America or what this really is, but having an Assassin's Creed with sort of dark magic and Midsummer and The Witch and what was the other one called? There's just all those kind of really creepy witch stuff. I think is pretty cool. So it's the German witch trials. There were German witch trials? Okay, cool. Well, this is Codename Hex. I'm in. That's interesting. That's fucking interesting. I dig it. Okay, Infinity, whatever. I don't give a shit about that. Infinity's just it's a multiplayer hub where all the games connect. And then I guess there are standalone multiplayer games that you can play with your friend. Fuck you, I don't care. Assassin's Creed Jade is a smart gamble. I don't really care about. But it's their cell phone game. They call it a AAA RPG action adventure for mobile, set in ancient China. I assume because it's on mobile. Yeah, Uncle Filthy says that Assassin's Creed Hex is just going to be a bunch of people seeing if women float. Yeah, you just like grab women, throw them in the water. That's all it is. Well, you can say mobile, Centro, but mobile makes a shit ton of money more than console and PC combined. So I know why they're there. My question is it going to be free? Because if it's going to be free, then how are they going to make their money? Is it going to be gameplay breaking microtransactions? Because it's a single player action adventure game, I think. Or is it, and it lets you create your own character. So I'm sure some of the cosmetics will be where the money comes from. But clearly, they just launched Rainbow Six mobile into beta this week in a couple of territories. So, I mean, they make a boatload of money. They have to have a smart business model for how they're going to make their ducats off this. But I've never played a AAA open world RPG that is single player and free to play. I haven't played Genshin Impact though. So, and Genshin Impact is single and multiplayer. So I don't know how they're actually pulling this off. I don't know what this is. But if it's free, I'll try it. Why not? I got a backbone that I put my phone in and have controls and shit like that. True Teller says Assassin's Creed Jade based in China should be a AAA full game. It is. It's just on mobile. But I know what you mean. You're right. Bill Bones has a great point. He says nothing about Prince Persia remake is alarming. Well, we knew that was going back to the drawing board, but you're right that they didn't mention it at all. Maybe it's they got a new director. Maybe it's like super fucking delayed, so it's not worth talking about. Netflix, pretty interesting. They got to deal with Netflix. They're bringing 3 games to Netflix. Games, which again, hate mobile all you want. Centro says mobile ain't AAA, Jaffe. I'm saying they're calling it literally on your screen. They're calling it AAA. So I assume that means they're putting the same amount of money and resources in, whether that's narrative-based stuff or multiplayer stuff like Diablo Immortal. I have no idea, but I'm using their words. I haven't played it yet. But mobile, look, man, you can shit on mobile all you want. A lot of people do, and that's fine. But if you look at mobile on Netflix or Apple Arcade, and you shit on it without trying it, you're a fucking moron. And you're not a true gamer fan. I'm sorry, but you're not. Because none of those games have microtransactions. They are all built to be games to be played, just like you would play on your Game Boy back in the day. Game Boy Advance, Game Boy Color, DS, whatever. And there are some gems on there. So what you're going to get on Netflix subscription service Arcade, which comes if you have Netflix for free, is you're going to get Valiant Hearts 2. You're going to get one other game. I don't know if they said. That'll come up later in our show. And then you're going to get a new mobile game just for Netflix Arcade in the Assassin's Creed franchise. So I'm excited. I'm not excited. I'm excited because I subscribe to Netflix and fuck it, I'll try it. But I don't, if it sucks, it sucks. But yeah, the idea that people sort of continue to sort of poo-poo on mobile without recognizing Apple Arcade and or Netflix and or any of these games that don't have microtransactions, what you're literally doing is you're taking a tech device and you're saying, even if it's built for touch controls, or even if I have a backbone, even if there's no microtransactions, I want nothing to do with it. Why? Don't you love games? I don't understand. And then, yeah, they are also making a live action Assassin's Creed TV show, whatever. I don't care. Here's the other stuff Ubisoft showed. It was a little bit less inspiring, but interesting nevertheless. We talked about Assassin's Creed, Skull and Bones, whatever. I don't care. Mario Rabbids Sparks of Hope. They announced Rayman's coming. Big deal. They did this thing where they're like, oh, we're so excited to work with this character. And they kept teasing it. And I was like, oh, they're going to bring Link. Link's going to be playable in a DLC for Sparks of Hope. No, it's Rayman. Who gives a shit about Rayman? But anyway, whatever. I guess the French do. So Mario Rabbids is coming soon. They showed more of it. Looks great. Looks really fun. Looks different than the first one, but still like the first one. That's exciting. I'm looking forward to it. Ubisoft Plus, if you care, you can get it for a month for free right now. You can get all their games, which include not just Ubisoft games. They're starting to include indie games. You can get all of that right now for $10. No, free right now until October 10th. So PC, Stadia, Amazon Luna until October 10th, it's free. Going over there and play Valhalla, play whatever you want. It's all up there. All up there. Just letting you know they announced that as well. Ultra Awesome, I agree. He says Apple Arcade games have been great. $5 a month, a no-brainer for me. I agree. I absolutely agree. The Division, there's an update coming, or Division 2 Season 10. People who love that are excited. I've never played a Division game in my life. Mythic Quest, they have a new season coming. I've never watched it. Brawlhalla, we talked about. They're getting an update with Castlevania characters. Just Dance, my kids used to love that. If you're into that, it looks great. Mighty Quest is a game based on the TV show as the other Ubisoft Netflix game. So Valiant Hearts 2, Assassin's Creed Mobile, whatever that is, and Mighty Quest. Okay. Rainbow Six Mobile, we've talked about. You know what it is. It's cash grab, but it'll probably make them shit tons of money. The Crew 2, I don't give a fuck. Riders Republic, I don't give a fuck. They're getting Season 4. Is anyone still actually playing that game? There's new Trackmania coming. And then they also announced, there was one more thing one of you guys mentioned that I thought would be coming up. Oh, they announced something called The Division Heartland, which that actually had me interested. Is that a full-on, is that basically the Division 3? Because I like the setting of that. The Division Heartland, Tom Clancy's The Division Heartland. It's free to play. Okay, so it's multiplayer. Okay, so it's not narrative based. Free to play multiplayer survival action shooter in a fictional rural community in Middle America. And so I don't know when it's going live. I don't know much about it yet. It's not mobile though. It's PS4, PS5, X and S, Xbox One, and PC. They call it a survival action multiplayer shooter. So it's more like Fortnite than it is like is it PvP or PvE? I don't know. But they showed the town when they showed the trailer, and I love fighting in environments like this that are very relatable, at least for me, because I grew up in America. So I'm like, oh, that's awesome. I'm totally into sort of that, fighting in Nebraska, small town USA. I'm down. John says the Division games, I never had a problem with them. They gave you a mission, go and get explore and grab weapons and have co-op. Yeah, I hear it's great. No, Bacon Magma, that's not right. Bacon Magma says, by Jaffe's logic, if you love movies, you've got to watch them all. No, by my logic, if you claim to love narrative storytelling, linear narrative storytelling, then it doesn't matter if you see it in a theater or you watch a small off-Broadway play. You're mistaking, you're assuming scope is equivalent to the medium in general. And that's not the case. So it's a nice try though, Bacon. Good for you, buddy. Okay, JW says that the Division Heartland has PvE and PvP solo. Okay, so I'll check it out. Yeah, Spectre Bull says if you claim to love something, you'd explore that thing and not stick to your comfort zone, right? That's exactly right. Luca, we missed Luca yesterday. Luca was working crazy late all weekend, but we had a good time. Maybe we can get you in the next one, Luca. That was a fun D&D. Okay. I want to tell you guys one of the main stories today is, let me take this off the screen. Give me a second. Let me settle. Let me center. Okay. So you may remember this. We covered this about 2 years ago. This was before Amy Hennig took her job as the head of the interactive division at Skydance, right? And she had left Naughty Dog and she was just kind of going around figuring out what's next. And she did a sit down at DICE of that year, 2019, I guess, with Tim Schafer. And she said something really interesting when they were talking. Bandersnatch had just come out on Netflix. And if you don't know, that was sort of one of their first forays into sort of interactive choose your own adventure storytelling. And she wasn't saying, oh, I want to make Bandersnatch, but she was saying, there's something wrong, I'm paraphrasing, about the fact that we have this amazing medium and it's gatekept by difficulty and anxiety on the part of players who look at a controller or look at someone who's great at a game and go, yeah, I'm too old for that shit, or I'm not skilled enough for that shit. And she was talking about when Tim asked her, what is your next adventure? She said, I really want to try, again, paraphrasing, I really want to try to crack that nut. I really want to try to make games more accessible, but still exciting and cutting edge and all that. And then she goes off and announces she's going to Skydance Interactive. And she said, oh, we're going to be doing a AAA game or whatever. We're hiring for a AAA game. And I was pretty bummed because I was like, not that I'm opposed to a AAA game, of course, but I was just like, oh, okay. I thought you were really going to try something special and interesting. And it sounded like she had abandoned that. And so if you watched D23 this weekend, I'm not going to play the whole thing. There was a teaser, which I did not care for at all. I thought it was a terrible teaser. I thought it was terrible in the sense it wasn't badly made, but it was terrible in the sense that it didn't excite me. I was just like, all right, it's kind of cool. Black Panther and Captain America are coming together, but whatever. I was just kind of like, it just kind of sat there for me. And so I was like, it's a really dumb trailer, or teaser, but of course it's Amy Hennig. So I have faith. We'll see where things go. Okay. There's Cap's shield. You see Wakanda, the Black Panther's claw marks in it, blah, blah, blah. Okay. So that's kind of where I was with this. I was like, whatever. But then I want to play you a little bit from this sit down I saw this weekend with Ryan McCafferty of IGN. There's 3 clips I'm going to play, and I'll stop from time to time, talk about them. But I want to give this a play to you. I want you to hear the first thing she's talking about story. So at first I'm like, okay, that's a really cool take that Amy and story consultant. This is the guy who works with Kevin Smith on his, I think it's Fat Man and Beyond, right? What's this guy's name? I have it written down somewhere up here. I don't watch that show that often, but I'm very familiar with it. Mark Bernardin is the guy. Okay, so this is them talking about story first. Here we go.
We love the idea of doing kind of a team up, in kind of the classic Marvel sense, where you take characters who haven't necessarily been in a story together, and then also to set it in a time that would be unexpected, get out of sort of the contemporary time period. What characters would be cool, what sort of mashup would be the most surprising and yield the most fun?
Yeah, there's something so wonderfully fertile about this particular point in time in both Steve Rogers' life and in the sort of ongoing continuity of Wakanda. because Wakanda, loves being, as we've seen in lots of iterations, these sort of cloistered nation state that doesn't interact with the rest of the world. But we're dealing with World War II, which is a war that kind of touched everywhere. And so what would the response be in a place like Wakanda to Hydra and Germany and Nazis and giant global conflict? And, Steve Rogers in his time in World War II, who is this kid at this point? He's probably still just 19 years old, before he goes into his deep freeze. So who is he, and what is he about, and what does he have left to learn over the course of his time?
And how do these two characters who are strangers to each other yet have so much in common as being both sort of symbols and protectors of their countries? How do they collide, and how does that relationship begin, and how does it form? Has been a lot of the basis of our story discussions.
Okay, so on that, you're either in or you're out. But I think the idea of, I've never thought about that. How does Wakanda, hell, if you think about how does Paradise Island with Wonder Woman, but how does Wakanda deal with Nazis and racism and anti-Semitism and basically Hitler? I don't know. The fact that they mention that, I think is pretty exciting because it means they're going to go into that to some extent. The fact that they mention that it's a young Captain America story is interesting. The fact they mention that it's Captain America and the grandfather of T'Challa meeting for the first time and what their relationship is like. I think all of those things are very rich, and the setting, if the game is centered around telling a story in a really cool way. So I'm in on this. I'm in so far. But again, I'm like, yeah, but I don't want to fucking play a PvP or sorry, a PvE co-op game like what is that game coming out? Gotham Knights. Oh, you're the Black Panther. I'm the GI. You're Captain. And almost immediately they say it's not a co-op game. I'm like, fine. I still don't really. The powers of Captain America, the powers of Black Panther, they're great if you're a real superhero. But in a game, they're just kind of melee attacks, right? This is where it got interesting to me. Not just because I'm more interested in playing this, but because what it means if it turns out that they pull this off. Now, I think the chances of them pulling off what they're about to say are terribly low. But yeah, Jimmy Gilchrist, I know I don't know if you're trolling or not, but you're being really negative on it, which is fine. No one's taking your right away or trying to. But I'm just saying that what they're trying here is not Uncharted. I want you to listen to the gameplay description and what they're trying to do with the gameplay, and then we'll talk about it. Here you go. This is Amy talking about the gameplay.
I know we don't know.
By the way, Bacon says, Jaffe, if you don't want to play this game, that means you don't love this gaming genre. No, here's what it means. If you hear what Amy is saying and you don't have a interest, if you don't walk away from what she's about to say and go, okay, that's interesting. That may not be for me, but that's an interesting thought and execution piece about the interactive medium. That would mean you don't love gaming. But you don't have to want to play it. But to say what she's about to say, hell, I'll just play. Here you go, Bacon. Suck it down, bitch.
Again, too much about the game yet, but I have to wonder, just from your sort of hero shot there at the end of the trailer, cooperative play?
Narratively, yes. Gameplay mechanics wise, no. That's not the intent.
Yeah.
But look, I mean, we experienced something partly intentionally and partly by a happy accident with Uncharted, where we found out that, for people playing our game, it was really a shared living room experience. And it was because that they were invested in the story and the characters, and they felt collaboratively engaged with what was going on, even if their hand wasn't on the controller. And so part of the design here is to sort of tap into that experience. And so, is it literally a co-op game in a technical sense? No. But is it a sort of a shared experience and even sort of a collaborative experience? And, part of what we're doing is encouraging people who don't consider themselves, traditional gamers, feel just as invited and welcomed into the experience, even in a hands-on way.
So, and she's going to go into details in a moment. But the idea of going, we want to take this medium and yes, we're not, I don't think she's about to tell you that the game's going to serve both hardcore gamers and less hardcore gamers. I don't know if I agree with that. I don't know if she's going to be able to crack that nut. But if she can make a game, what comes to mind is a more commercial version of As Dusk Falls, where it is anyone can sit down with a controller with their friends at any skill level. Just like you don't have to have been watching movies for 20 years to sit down and watch a movie, or at least most movies. Most movies are designed for a large percentage of people to digest. Sometimes that's bad, but more often than not, that's good. And so that, and the proof will be in the pudding, but she's about to explain how she's thinking about doing it. That's the exciting part, because if you take something like Dusk Falls, which I thought was not a very good story, terrible art style, and you take something as commercial and mainstream as Marvel and very big heroes like Captain America and T'Challa, and what they really fucking better announce is they need to get Chris Evans as Captain America to play the voice, because if they really want to mainstream this motherfucker, that's the way they should do it. But anyway, the idea that anyone can sit down with their friends and family and go, hey, let's play the Captain America game and go on this interactive experience. That's exciting. Brian E. says it could work, but it's a crapshoot. Yeah, absolutely. But that's why it's exciting, because it's going, look, especially with budgets going up, when Michael Pachter comes on this show and says, he predicts that Game Pass is going to get 100 million subscribers eventually. And I says to the guy, well, Michael Pachter, does that mean game design is going to have to be changed? Because you're going to have to get a lot more people who game that don't game now. And he didn't really answer that question. But I think if what Amy does works, it's pretty exciting. It's pretty exciting. Let me play this. This is how she's planning on doing it within reason. She's not giving away the farm yet, but here you go.
When this thing finally comes out, what do you hope that players take away from it?
Well, I hope that we stick the landing on what it is that we're trying to do. And that is, it wants to be focused on story and a character-driven story. It wants to be cinematic in its presentation. It wants to have like best-in-class visual fidelity. But the thing that I feel like, even as a gamer and a long-time gamer, I feel like I've been missing is some of the inviting qualities that games have moved away from. It's become kind of an exclusive hobby where, if you're not an experienced gamer who can kind of hang with all the difficulty and complexity, then you're kind of like walled off from the experience, which is really a shame, because here we are with a franchise, and an IP partner where it's one of the most demographically widest appealing, characters and stories. And we want to invite everybody in. We want everybody who loves the comics and the movies and the TV shows to like engage with this game. And so one of the main things that we're doing to kind of answer both your previous question and this one is rethinking some of the dogma around game design about, difficulty and mastery and competition and stress that comes with a lot of these games, and getting back to a place where the game sort of meets you where you are, and it's intuitive and responsive, and the things that you're doing with the controllers feels like the things that the characters are doing, that anybody can pick it up and play it because it's actually really common sense and intuitive. But it's also super deep for longtime gamers like ourselves who can look under the hood and figure out how to deepen their own experience and be rewarded for sort of skillful execution of the mechanics. But ultimately, we want to replicate that exhilarating feeling of the comics and films and the TV shows, but with your hands on the controller and feeling like you're the one choreographing the action, and all the things you intend, the game like delivers in spades, as opposed to feeling like you're kind of having to get good and crawl through a whole bunch of complexity to get there. All of that stuff can separate you from the flow state of the experience. A lot of our inspirations have come from unexpected sources like rhythm games and VR experiences and even mobile games where there's less of a divide between what you're doing and sort of the tactile experience of what you're doing, and and on the controls of what you're doing in the game. And that can get you into this really immersive flow state where you're kind of like, now you're having this, this Panther simulator, this Cap simulator, where it's like you really can immerse yourself in the character. That's our goal, to make it thrilling and vicarious and invite everybody into that experience. We love.
So again, I see some of you guys in the chat, and that's fine. It may not be for you, but it sounds like what she, and the other thing that came out today, this was from Kotaku. She didn't say this here. I don't know. This may have come out at D23. Is it's structured like a TV series. I'm just reading you directly from Kotaku. It's structured like a TV series, which they described as being bingeable, serialized adventure. To achieve the vision, Skydance sought to put together a team of creatives, blah, 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 whatever. So it's definitely designed to be something that is, you guys in the chat, they're like, oh, okay, so maybe it's adjusting difficulty or whatever. I would be surprised. I could be wrong, but based on what she's saying, I would be surprised if you literally take the controller and you have a lot of direct control over these characters at all. I don't think you're going to be like XXX square circle R1 and you're going to do this crazy shield throw that, goes past T'Challa or T'Challa's grandfather, and it causes T'Challa to scrape it with his claws and set it on fire and it kills a Nazi. I don't think that's what they're talking about. I think it is more like As Dusk Falls is what I hear. And I'll tell you something. I have my brother's not a gamer. He's coming into town this week. I think I'm just going to do an experiment. I'm going to get As Dusk Falls, which I enjoyed the play experience. I did not think the story was good. And I'm going to have a couple of people come over who are not gamers, and we're going to play it. And I just want to see what they think, because they may be like, whatever, I'd rather watch a TV show. But I thought that game was great. And if they're basically saying, let's do that kind of game, but with a better IP, better writing, cutting edge art, I'm very excited to see what this is. It's it's more interesting, and I think if it can work, it's pretty fucking great. Yeah, Brian E says Until Dawn would work better for that test. It might. I mean, Until Dawn might also be a good thing, maybe somewhere in between what Amy's doing. I know somebody in the chat's been asking, well, what about Telltale games? Why don't you ever talk about those? I honestly just never really liked them. I thought they were boring. I thought they were slow. There was nothing inherently wrong with their games, but they were never very compelling to me. So I just kind of moved on with my life. That's why. Yeah, Play a Player says the controller scares non-gamers. Yeah, it does. And again, I get that a lot of you guys are, gatekeeping to be trolls, and a lot of you guys are serious about it. But fact of the matter is, everybody loves interactivity. Everybody loves the internet and to play around and fuck around with things. And, to basically say then this isn't for you. Fuck off. I'm with Amy on that. Fuck off. It's time. It's time to wind the net. It doesn't mean you're going to not have your shit. Of course you're going to have your shit. I've been gaming since 1976. I mean, I get it. I'm a gamer, but wouldn't it be great if other people could also enjoy it? Whatever. Here's what I want to tell you something, though. Oh, Pentiment. I haven't watched anything on that other Truth Teller. That's the game from Obsidian coming to Game Pass with like a small little team. Looks like sort of Renaissance art. Not Renaissance art, but art in like ancient books. I don't fucking know what it is, but I hear it's it looks interesting, but I don't really know kind of what it is. Okay. Some crazy shit is going down at 343. Is it good? Maybe. Is it bad? Maybe. We're going to talk about that, and we're going to talk about Fable, and we're going to talk about how Matt Booty figures into all of this, because you must know Bonnie Ross, the head of 343, announced today that she's leaving. She's leaving. Another person is walking away. We'll get to that in just a second, but I do want to tell you about a couple of things that are important to me, and they will be to you. Tiger Chainsaw Retro Video Games hosts the #1 video game talk show. Tiger Chainsaw is one of our sponsors who has a very interesting show called, he got a number of videos, but one of them is called the Tiger Chainsaw Show. It is modeled after a late night show. So there's comedy sketches, there's musical guests sometimes, there's interviews all the time. Speaking of which, I will be on the show coming up sometime in the next couple of weeks. Gerard Moreno, the composer of God of War, will be on the show in the next couple of weeks. It is fun. It is funny. It is interesting. It is gaming, Tiger Chainsaw Gaming. And you can find that on the link tree below. The other thing I want to let you know is Halloween's coming up and the holidays are coming up. Day one Patch Kids is exactly where you should be shopping for the people you love in your life if they love the video games. Day one Patch Kids are a merge of the creepy already. They were already creepy looking. The Cabbage Patch Kids, I was a kid when that was in all the craze. I know what it's about. They look like creepy little fucking weirdos. Okay, well now you got them and the Garbage Pail Kids mixed with video games from our own Rotten Tanuki. They have cards and shower curtains and clocks and t-shirts and buttons and stickers and all kinds of shit over there made of video game characters mixed with Cabbage Pail, Garbage Pail Kids. There's always brand new ones. The newest ones, we got Solo Her, J-Lo, and we also have Zombie Zab. My own character creations, along with the team at Santa Monica, are in there as well. Check them out. All these are in the link tree down below. Let's talk about Bonnie Ross. Bonnie Ross, 343 Industries, restructures his leadership team following studio head's exit. You have to have seen this. I know I'm not in Discord. I don't want to take calls right now. I might take calls later in the show. I'm not taking them right now. Bonnie Ross was the head of 343 since 2007. She was brought on. She did all she led the studio. She's been there for 15 years. Today she says there's a family emergency. I gotta get out of here. I gotta leave. Now here's the interesting part. She says she was already scheduled to leave in the winter, after the winter update. So it's not like again, none of us know the story. It's really none of our business. I take her at face value. Maybe she was fired. Some people in the chat are saying, but usually when someone leaves or is fired and they're given kind of a graceful exit at a PR level, they don't say it was a family emergency. They'll say something like, oh, I have new creative endeavors I want to try, or, I really feel the pandemic made me reprioritize and I want to spend more time with my kids or whatever. But to say you're having a family emergency, that kind of sounds pretty fucking real, goddamn it, real. And I hope the best for her and her family, of course. I know she has kids. But either way, she's out. Whether she was pushed out, she left on her own, she was going to be pushed out after the winter update, but she left, who the fuck knows, certainly not us, okay? But she's out. And I don't think you can really use this as people in the chat are saying, oh, it means that Matt Booty and Phil Spencer are starting to manage right. I maybe. If they indeed pushed her out, then I would agree with you. Because that studio is fucked up long enough and it's time to fucking right the ship. Or maybe, the guy they put in charge, it was the guy who was the studio head of production. Now he's the studio head. And that's happening right away. So we'll see what happens. But it reminds me of, we looked a little bit at Matt Booty's chat a couple weeks ago at PAX. And there was two more things I want to play you as it relates specifically to this. The host asked Matt Booty about delays and video games and how fans should respond to delays. And Ravno says the mismanagement was having her do the work of three people. He's referring to the fact that she's out and there's three people coming in, or that are already part of the studio, that are coming in to sort of take on her responsibilities. So the head of production is becoming the head of the studio, and then two of her other, I think she was like creative brand liaison or brand director of Halo. Someone else is doing that. And then there's the esport component. Someone else is doing that. So it is possible. It is absolutely possible that she took on too much and no one was able to recognize it at a higher level and said, you can't do all this, right? Venom Quest says, Jaffe, she did not say she was leaving because of a family emergency. She said she was leaving and had a family emergency. Well, let's be clear. Let's be clear. Bonnie Ross, she wrote a letter. Let's see what she says in her letter. Her letter says, come on now, where's your letter? Where's your letter? Come on, Bonnie. Bonnie the Ross, regarding the open letter. Is that it? Nope, that's 5 years ago. Come on, Jaffe. Bonnie, oh, Jesus Christ, just fucking give me what I want. Give me what I want, motherfucker. All right, here we go. Print the, I hate all this shit. There we go. That's what I want. That's what I want. Here's the letter that Bonnie Ross herself wrote. She says, while I had hoped to stay with Halo until we release the winter update, I'm letting you know I'll be leaving 343 and attending to a family medical issue. This is not a legal document. If you're telling me she's saying, I will be leaving and attending to a family medical issue, and the family medical issue is not tied to her leaving, I don't believe you. I think you're grasping at straws. I think because then she might as well have written, I'm letting you know I'll be leaving 343 and I plan on picking up groceries tonight. There's zero reason to assume those two things aren't connected. So no, the narrative is that they're putting out there, and I don't have a reason to doubt it. It sounds terrible. That, it's a family medical issue she's got to deal with. That's really rough. But let me play you what good sir Matt Booty had to say when he was asked at PAX about games that slip and why they slip and what the audience should feel like when they do. Here you go. This is Matt Booty. I'll play it and I'll talk about it on the other side.
Lately, I feel like whenever there is an announcement, I feel like the developers, bless their hearts, just get all over. It's become really toxic. And I just feel like that's because it's hard to imagine what goes into a game delay, how complicated making a game really is. Maybe this could be a good chance for some of us to learn some empathy. What would you say about game delays in the relationship to the developers themselves?
The accountability is on us and on the game team, because often those unmet expectations are because we promised something or we didn't deliver, and people are excited. Like, lucky are we that people are so excited about our games that they get grumpy when they don't show up on time, right? I mean, I'll take that any day. But the criticism is fair, right? But if anything, bring that criticism at me, bring that criticism at the bigger organization, because we've got accountability to get that stuff done. But the individual artists, the individual developers, they're pouring their hearts into these things to try to get this stuff done on time. So, we don't need to give them any.
Be kind.
Yeah.
It's not that hard. So what?
So, I mean, look, man, okay, we're bringing it to Matt Booty. We're bringing it to Phil Spencer. I mean, the fact of the matter is trust me, Matt Booty, no one is, your lack of ability to get games out on a timely manner and Phil's lack of ability to get you to do your job has not gone unnoticed. I'm not sitting here blaming, programmer X of 343 or of Perfect Dark. We are blaming you. So what are you going to do about it? So far, nothing, unless you actually did fire Bonnie Ross. But that doesn't sit right to me. Because think about this. If they fired Bonnie Ross, which I don't think they did, and then they made up a bullshit excuse and it got out that she was leaving because of family emergency and she was fired, and the optics of going, we lied about a family emergency so we wouldn't look bad that we fired her, doesn't sit well. Like, if you remember the woman who ran Blizzard, I forget her name, with Mike Ybarra last year, and she signed on and then she quit. And she was like, and we were all like, why did she quit? Like within 2 weeks or a month or whatever it was. And she said something like, oh, there are other things I want to do now, and I feel really good about, where things are at Blizzard. Some bullshit PR thing. And then when the truth came out, which is she found out Mike Ybarra was making a lot more money than she was, and they wouldn't give her the same, they said, fuck it. Or she said, fuck it, and she walked away. that's what, that's why I don't think this person was fired at all. Where's this guy wrote this about, what's your take on Miles, said the Souza from Xbox Windows Central, saying, if you haven't run a studio, you can't criticize her. Well, I've certainly come closer. Well, I have run a studio. I mean, I hired somebody to run it with me because I can't run a studio, but I knew enough to know that I don't know shit about the day-to-day operations of managing people. But I don't think okay, so what I would say to this guy, Miles, I would say, yes, if you're sitting in her yearly review, you don't belong there. If you're going to sit there and say, Bonnie Ross, I think the way you handled the slip delay when it came to these 4 programmers who quit in protest was bad. Yeah, you have no right to criticize her. But of course you have a right to criticize the shitty service you're getting and look at the head of that service and go, you're at fault. Of course you do. That's ridiculous. That's utterly ridiculous. If Windows Central is 2 days late with one of their podcasts that they promise you on a certain date, they're going to apologize because they know that we have a right to criticize them, even though a lot of you guys have never had a podcast before, but they've promised you something and they haven't delivered. I think that's horse shit. I think they don't want to cut their connections with where they get a lot of their news from and don't want to bad talk anybody. No, I don't agree. Okay, Darth Nugget says, forget me not. I said the same thing. Jaffe's ignoring our completely valid point. No one's ignoring it, Darth Nugget. I just haven't seen it yet. I'm doing a lot in real time. Forget me not says they did it with Zack Snyder. So Zack Snyder on Justice League had his daughter tragically took her own life. And my understanding is he left as anyone would, to try within reason to come to grips with that. I mean, that's what happened. I'm not sure what your point is, Forget Me Not or Darth Nugget, when it comes to how Zack Snyder's exit from Warner Brothers and from Justice League relates to Bonnie Ross's. Maybe you can articulate it better. Mr. K says, no, dude, they asked her to leave, but she's been with Xbox since the beginning, so they're giving her a dignified exit. I don't think this is a dignified exit. I think this is very personal. I think when you say you have a family medical issue, that's not a dignified exit. A dignified exit is very different. But I agree with you. If they had come out and said, oh, Bonnie's going on to explore new horizons as she, dives into her love of Renaissance painting, whatever, that's a dignified exit. Saying that, oh, her family is having medical issues? Come on now. And then what if it comes out that she didn't, which it probably will if it was a lie? Then it's like, oh, Matt Booty and Phil Spencer made up some bullshit medical story about her fucking kids. Come on now. But yeah, so Warner Brothers says Darth Nugget wanted Zack Snyder gone off Justice League, the movie. So the PR spin was it was entirely about his daughter. Well, okay, but let's be clear. Okay. Most people, certainly Zack Snyder, because he's not like we're talking about Spielberg, have something called pay or play in their contract. Directors get fired all the time. Oh, we paid him out of his contract, but we had creative differences, so we moved on. Why in the world would it's like, oh boy, thank God his daughter killed herself right around the time we've been looking to fire him. I mean, it's just silly. It's fucking silly. Forget Me Not says Warner Brothers fired him. They used his daughter as a cover up. Why do they need a cover up? Just say we had creative differences. My God, his kid killed herself. Jesus, everything with you people. It's always. I mean, I get it. I don't want to be a dick. It's your upbringing. You have a reason not to trust anybody. I get it. But shit. Competent movies, and he was the innovator, says Ravnos, who brought up us the speed up, slow down thing. Yeah, scripts are terrible. All right, let's move forward. Let's move on. Let's talk about Tokyo Game Show. This is exciting. Tokyo Game Show starts 1 o'clock in the morning on the 15th, which is Thursday. If you live on the West Coast like I do. Will I be streaming all of this? I don't know. But I have a fantasy that I will. 1 a.m. is the Japan Game Awards. I don't care about that. 2 a.m. is Microsoft. 3 a.m. is Archosaur. I don't know what that is. 4 a.m. is Gree. They do a lot of mobile games. I'll probably get up for the Bandai Namco and the Capcom at 7 a.m. Capcom on Thursday, they say, are going to have, I'll tell you what they're going to be showing. Resident Evil games. That's why I'm getting up. Oh, yeah, we'll talk about Fable in just a second. Yes, Luke, sorry. Thanks for reminding me. Resident Evil, I'm very excited to watch, see what they have to show. In fact, we know that RE8 in PSVR 2 is going to actually be playable. So I will be looking forward to getting some hands-on impressions from people on that. Mega Man, I don't care about. Mega Man, they're showing the Battle Network Legacy Collection. Everybody on this stream has told me it's wonderful, so maybe I'll pick it up, but I don't really care about that. Monster Hunter, I don't care about. Exoprimal, okay. I hear the beta was fun. I'll give it a shot. And Street Fighter 6. So the real reason I want to get up early is the Resident Evil. But and then Bandai, will they be revealing Elden Ring updates? Like I know there is a update coming. For Elden Ring, we also know that From Software say they have their next product ready. Is that Elden Ring update, which would come from Bandai Namco, or is it a totally new game coming from a different publisher? Who knows? The next day is where it gets really sexy. We got 505 at 2 in the morning. We got Koei Tecmo at 3 in the morning. 4 a.m. brings us Sega Atlas. 5 a.m. brings us Konami. Maybe that's where we'll finally get some of the news. That I will get up for. Square Enix, I'll be up for 6 a.m. And then there's more Capcom on Friday. Everything else is goofy, weird, whatever. Like, I mean, I was watching D3 is on Saturday at like 9 o'clock at night. The first time I ever was exposed to Earth Defense Force. I knew what it was, but I'd never seen it. And I saw it played at the D3 show back in 2019 of TGS. And I fell in love with the franchise. So I'll be, skimming all of these, of course, but the ones that I really want to stream are the ones that we just talked about. So we'll see. Luke says Konami will be interesting, but probably disappointing. It's probably true. Adam says, so you're streaming Xbox, Square, Enix, Capcom, Sega, and Konami. As far as you know, will I be up at 2 a.m. for Microsoft? Probably. I probably will. But does that mean that I'm capable of getting up at 6 for Bandai? Probably not. So I'm just going to be in this world. I don't know when I'll be live. You'll have to just kind of, catch me when you catch me. But I will be streaming some of this, and I will be watching, and then we will be talking about all of this shit. Okay. Let me go back real quick. Let's finish off the Matt Booty, because Luke is right. We were going to talk about Fable. This is another thing that I don't get. I don't get this about Microsoft management. Listen to what he says when she asked him about Fable. This is really interesting.
How's Fable coming along?
So one of those things I talked about is part of my job is giving air cover to the team. They don't want to show stuff early before it's ready to go. But if there is one game where that is kind of flipped around, where every time I see something and I say, we should show this, it's Fable, because there's a lot of cool stuff. The team has made it very clear that I'm not going to be able to show anything until it's ready. But Playground, just what I'll say is that the craft and dedication that they brought to Forza Horizon, every bit of that is going to be applied to Fable, and they get it. Like, they get, there is some, like, let's be honest, giving Fable to the racing team could be a little bit of a head scratcher, right? But they have proven that they get it, and I'm excited for when the time comes to be able to show more.
So I'm just like, again, I'm going, dude, you're the head of games. Like, either you're lying to us, or you're the head of games at Microsoft, and you know your fans need to see something, not a Fable necessarily, but we need to see more stuff. So the story you just told was either an admission of you're such a hands-off manager that you shouldn't be in your position because you've got something that will be good for the brand, but because the team isn't ready to show it, you just acquiesce, or you're simply lying and you're saying that, but that is cover. Because if you actually see something, Matt Booty, that you feel is sexy and exciting, you guys right now going into the holidays with nothing, you need sexy and exciting. You need to be able to keep people talking about first party because God knows you have not delivered yet. Will you? I hope so. I think so, but I don't fucking know based on y'all's track record. Gravity says, do game studios really get to dictate to their parent company when they show their games? You know, it's a dance. You know, there's a PR component to it. Like what Matt Booty just said makes it sound like it's like those guys, those crazy geniuses. I mean, that's the narrative, right? Those crazy geniuses, they'll show it when they're ready. That's not true. There's an aspect of that that's true. But fact of the matter is, you know, when they need to show something, they fucking show it because it's good for the company. And either Matt Booty just has it wrong, and I don't know. It's weird, man. It's weird that that's his response. Centro, I don't agree with you. Valve is hands off with their employees, and they're doing great. They're not doing great as a software company. They are doing great with Steam. But the idea that, oh, you just come work on whatever you want to work on. I mean, you know, if you have the money to burn, fine, but where are their games? It probably, you know, suggests to me it's not a very good way to run a studio. Okay. Did I see his Netflix movie? Whose Netflix movie? Who are we talking about? Okay. Steam Deck is great. I don't know how it's selling. I mean, I asked Michael Packard directly. I said, hey, is this going to be a competitor to the Switch? Or is it going to be a kind of a hardcore, you know, cult obsession, but it's never going to be more than that? And he said, yeah, it's never going to be, you know, a major contender as a piece of hardware, but I'm sure they're making a profit. Yoshi P said we're going to get a Final Fantasy 16 trailer in the fall, so that could be tomorrow, says Adam. Cool. That's cool. Yeah, Mr. K, I know. We need a Pactor emoji. We do. Okay. Let's move forward, though. Shall we? I want to talk about this as it relates to sorta, Alana Pierce. What? Why? What? I don't understand. I know. But you will. This may be announced. I don't think this is going to be announced tomorrow, but you gotta, this is coming. This is coming. Enough evidence has leaked over the year to suggest that Returnal is coming to PC. And then the other day, some of the guys from Housemarque were giving a talk, and in that, the debug menu reference things that are PC based and not PS5 based. So it's one more piece of one more clue to suggest that Returnal will in fact be coming to PC. That is no surprise to anyone. What I hope happens, and this is where Alana Pierce kind of comes in, only in that she did this tweet the other day. She says tweets like this, she's talking about all the accessibility features on God of War, the new God of War. Tweets like this showcase the reason accessibility is so important. It's not about an easy mode. It doesn't hurt the developer's vision. It's about making sure fans of all kinds can play the games they love, and I love it. Now, I have been thinking a lot about, as I've gotten older, and I was never a good game player to begin with, but as I've gotten older, certainly my reflexes have dropped, but my love of games has not. My love of action games has not. I'm not looking to play solitaire. I still want to play action games. Like I said, I was up till 3 a.m. playing Elden Ring, right? And then when I got around to playing Rollerdrome a couple of weeks ago, and I realized I could play with the sliding scale of speed, not difficulty, although it affects difficulty. And I found myself loving Rollerdrome at 75% more than at 100%. And suddenly my eyes opened because it didn't feel like I was playing in easy mode. It felt like I was playing the game as designed, but in a way that my brain could actually stick with, right? So I go back to Returnal for a moment and I say, you're going to get mods on this. I don't think that you're going to see Housemarque give you a difficulty mode. But I will buy this game again on PC if there is a time slider. I don't want it to be easy. I don't want it to be a baby fucking game. But I absolutely want to be able, for my brain, to do what a lot of y'all's brains can do, where the furthest I got in that game was to the boss out in the red desert, which I guess was the second level biome, whatever. And it was just a spray of bullet hell coming at me. And I was just like, I'm done. If this is the second boss, there's no way in hell I am ever going to beat this game. And I love this game. It was one of my favorite games last year, but I'm like, there's no fucking way. So I don't want easy mode. I don't want to get hit by the bullet and not take the same level of damage as you do. I just want to have a little bit of ability to play it like you experience it, right? So then Kotaku writes an article talking about Steel Rising, which came out this week. This is the game we were saying that opened at 26 in the UK after a week on sale. I don't know how it's going to do. I think it's like at about a 70, 75 on Metacritic. People like it, but it's clearly kind of a poor man's Bloodborne. But apparently it is stacked and stacked and stacked with accessibility options. So you can, this article is interesting because he writes, this is actually a woman, I think Claire Jackson writes, that you can even go in, and I know this sounds horrible, but you can go in and you can turn off all of the damage that the enemies do. And you're like, what the fuck, Jeffy? Why would you want that? But what she writes is she's like, that allowed me, and you can also go in and you can die and come back closer to where you were without losing all your shit. Okay. And she said that allowed me, it's not that I want to cheese the game and burn through it. It allowed me to actually have time with that boss that was killing me. And instead of me quitting and being frustrated by going, you know what, I'm not going to spend 20 minutes getting back to that boss. And I know the hardcore fans are like, no, but that's the tension. You want that. That's the vision. Fine. But for her and for a lot of people, probably for me, that is a point where you walk away. Mr. K even in the chat says, I got to the second or third level in Returnal and I quit. It's too hard. So she says I can get to that boss, and now when it's not damaging me, it's not that I want to beat it without taking damage. I want to be able to beat it because I can spend time with it and actually understand its patterns. But I would never do that if I had to have the punishment of 20 minutes every time I died, which was happening super frequently. So I'm going to buy this game. I'm going to pick it up tonight. It's $50. I don't expect a great game, but I absolutely do want to see what the experience is like with these settings. See, this is where I think a lot of hardcore gamers get a little off the track here, right? Eddie T says, easy action games aren't fun for me. I like overcoming difficult obstacles. It's satisfying. As do I. As do most people. That is not the problem. No one's looking, at least for a game like this, for it to be easy. It's that everyone, if we're going to make adjustments, like going back to Alana talking about working with the God of War team on accessibility, if we're going to make adjustments because you're colorblind or because your left side of your body is paralyzed or you don't hear so good or whatever, why is it a bridge too far to make adjustments for people who don't have the reflexes you do, or have the reflexes you do, but simply can't track spatial awareness at the speed that you can? I don't want those people to experience a cakewalk. Yeah, well, Centro says easy and accessible sounds very similar. Right. I think that's why I've become interested. Because when I play this and I bring speed down to 75% on Rollerdrome, it doesn't feel easy. It feels incredibly engaging. Now, if I brought that down to 10%, I would agree. So in the chat, we've got some interesting comments. So Player says there's too many games to play to be playing excessively hard games. Venom Quest says nowadays I lack the attention span to spend too long on a game. It's frustrating. But then we have Mike who says don't play games if you don't have decent reflexes. And this is kind of the issue, is that these games are costing more and more. Hardcore gamers don't want to give up anything, but too bad, hardcore gamers. You're going to have to. You're going to continue to get your super hard games. Nothing wrong with that. But they're not going to have the level of graphic fidelity that the other games do. Because you need a bigger audience to justify the budget. And there are people, what you don't understand is that my 75% in Rollerdrome is your 100%. Probably. We're probably having the same experience. That's what you want, right? You want me to have your experience. But that's not what you really want. What you really want, if you're one of those kind of people, is you want me to feel shitty about the fact that I don't have the same skills and or attributes or ableist issues that I have that you don't have. And in that, you get to feel good about yourself. That's what you really want. Because if you actually wanted someone to experience what you say you love, which is games, then you would celebrate this. Would you stay at 75 or consider building up to 80%? I don't know, Brian East. I haven't played it in a while, but what I played, I enjoyed. So I hope I go back to it. Why is that dragging games down, Jimmy Gilchrist? What is happening is not that games will be dragged down. I've said this ad nauseum. I'm not going to spend too much time on this, but it's just me repeating the fact that, like every other medium, the more expensive it gets, the more mainstream it gets, the more people who are the hardcore have to go off to the margins. You see it with alt and indie bands. You see it with art films. You see it with novels. That's how it works. I'm sorry you don't like it, but that's how it works. You're not going to be the person the game makers are chasing as much anymore. Sorry. But, you got too expensive to serve. Doug says, let me change the subject. Doug says, as a gamer of decades, I appreciate gamers sticking to their vision. Oh, yeah. Okay, that's not what I wanted to read, but thank you, Doug, for that. I wanted to read, Doug says, I sent a tweet with a podcast interview of Mitch Lasky. Didn't Mitch Lasky die? Am I thinking of someone else? I know Mitch Lasky, though, or I know of him, an industry vet with Activision turned investor. It's a great listen. That deep dives into the business. Okay, I'll give it a listen. Thank you, Doug, for that. I appreciate it. Only thing that drags games down is time and money needed to make them, says William Jackson. Brian E says, I think being able to mod speed is a great way to adjust the experience. But from my perspective, I was able to handle the game perfectly at 100. Right. And I'm glad you were. That's fantastic. But let's put it this way, Brian. I would have quit much sooner than I did. It was fun, but after a while, I'm like, I'm getting hit from the back too much. I don't like constantly looking behind me when the little arrow pops up. It makes me, it's just not enjoyable. But when I changed it, I dug it. Mr. K, I am going to give it a listen because if it's interesting, I'll play it on the stream. We'll take some parts from it. Okay, and None of Your Business says, and that's another part, I'm older now and do not have the time or attention span to be retrying the same boss over and over and over. Are more options always better? No, Denova, I don't think more options are always better. And I don't agree with giving the player the job of the designer. I absolutely think that the vision of the designer and the director and the team should always be protected, because if you're going to spend that kind of money on a director's vision, you want the director's vision. But allowing more people to experience it by putting in the right options for that individual game, and it's case by case, I think is very important. But some games take it way too far. Absolutely. Helger says, I get what you're saying. I don't think you do. Helger says, I get what you're saying. For me, it's like wanting fruit to taste like chocolate. To be able to play those games, you need to be persistent. If that's not your cup of tea, you can play any other game. Yeah, but you don't really understand what I'm saying, Helger, because what I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is my experience of Rollerdrome should be your experience, right? But I can't experience your experience with the current settings because I don't have the reflexes. Okay? But when I play Rollerdrome at 75, if my experience is your experience, that's what you want. Because I want to have the same sense of achievement and struggling in certain games that you do. But the fact of the matter is the way it's tuned is on that razor's edge for you. And what you're saying is you're demanding that everybody have the same razor's edge settings. And that seems dumb to me. That seems archaic at this point. Yeah, disable the achievement. Sure, Wayne. Like in Steel Rising, that's my understanding is if you start fucking with those, there's a bunch of trophies and stuff you can't get, which I agree. I think the trophy should stay as like, hey, this is the pure version of it that the developer thinks should be worth a trophy. I'm down with that. Smashy smash, smash, smash. Okay. There is a fascinating study that came out. Would you like to know the states in America that play the most video games and the types of video games they play? I'm going to tell you all about that. I'm going to tell you one thing first, but I'm going to tell you all about that. Watch your eyes. Watch your sexy time. Boom. One of our great sponsors is Kiska Art. It's KiskaKara.com. But they do, let me show you their web. They're great. They're these two folks. I don't know if they're in a sexy time relationship or not. Maybe they're like, no way, we hate each other, but we work great together. They do sexy time erotic art, not safe for work, but they put little stars and stuff on the bits and berries. So you can kind of take a look, but they do a lot of geek centric. You got yourself, I don't know who that is. There's Jessica Rabbit. There's Cammy. I don't know who this lady is. Is that Tifa? I know they've done some Tifa. They do the Scooby-Doo. Look at the My Little Pony there. You can go on over to their website, check them out now. They're in the link tree below. You can get original art. You ever want to own original art for your home? Yeah, it's a little bit sexy. It's a little bit erotic, but you can get it. Going over there, check them out. Oh, look at this. We got Judy Jetson, fucking the robot, and George Jetson. Come on now. That's not too shabby. Let's take a look. Let's take a look, shall we? Again, they got stickers over the bit so I can show it to you. Wow, they're getting into the Jetsons now. We got Jetsons, and if you go up to the top, you can actually search categories that you're into. So, you can look up Final Fantasy, you can look up Zelda, blah, 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 blah. All right, check them out. Kiska Art over there at the link tree below. Any Simpsons stuff? That's a good question. I don't know. Could you really eroticize the Simpsons? I don't think I saw any Simpsons here. Let's see. My guess is no. They got Chrono Trigger on here. Oh, there is Simpsons. Hang on. Here we go. All right, let's see what they did to the Simpsons. I want to see what they got. Laura Croft, Metal Gear, Princess Daisy, Princess Belle, Princess Jasmine, Princess Zelda. Let's go. They got Samus. There's Tifa. That's my favorite. All right, Simpsons. Here we go. Let's close that. Come on. Website's a little slow. That's because they're searching up the sexy time. No products were. It's right there, you shithead. Well, maybe it's my. I'm on Firefox, not Chrome. Check it out. Kiska Kara Creations. Also, letting you know, don't forget, Icon Ear is the brand new website forum video game forum that has taken the world by storm. It's by our very own Brian. What's his name? Larry Hag, the guy from Dallas, 75. He runs this place with his pals. They broke off from NeoGAF. They broke off from Recent Era. They said, hey, we want anybody to be able to come here and talk about whatever the fuck they want. It's not heavily moderated. They're not going to let you be an asshole, but it's not heavily moderated in the sense that it's a little bit more of a barroom brawl feel sometimes, but it's really smart, really good conversation. This is Icon Era. They're on the link tree down below as well. Finally, before we get to the story about what states play the most, you got to check this out, the Elitist Podcast. I keep waiting for him to call me and invite me back on because I love it. It is a video game podcast about trivia about video games. So if you think you're smart and you think you know more about video games than these guys, you certainly don't know more than they don't know more than I do because I always wipe the floor with them whenever I'm on the show. But if you're like, hey, what was Mario's first name? Easy. Hey, here's a sound effect. What's the sound effect from? Easy for me. What's this cover from? It's good to see if you really are a smart gamer like you think you are, like your Papa Jaffe is, or if you're just a goddamn maroon. This is the Elitist Podcast. Check them out on the link tree down below. Okay, here's the study. Mapping America's Video Game Obsession. This just came out. I want to tell you what they found. Hang on. Archie Moses says, Jaffe, my wife thought you were a 90s era SNL live actor. Can you guess which one? Not Chris Farley. A 90s era. 90s? No. Jim Belushi was never on SNL, was he? Rob Schneider? Maybe Rob Schneider. I don't think Belushi was ever on. I mean, Belushi was 70s. Norm Macdonald. Belushi is 70s, though. So 90s era. Fuck it. We're going to look up 90s SNL stars. I know you're like, dude, isn't this a gaming show? It is. It is. But I need to know. SNL 90s cast. All right, here we go. Yeah, Eddie Murphy. That's right. All right, here we go. Top SNL characters from the 90s. Let's look it up. Hello, Darkseid. Good to see you, buddy. Will Ferrell, no. Phil Hartman? Maybe Phil Hartman. Farley, no. Myers, maybe. Dana Carvey, no. Sandler, no. Daryl Hammond, probably not. Tim Meadows, sure. John Lovitz, maybe John Lovitz. Sure, Jan Hooks. Norm Macdonald, no. Rachel Dratch, no. Tracy Morgan, no. Chris Parnell, probably not. Chris Kattan, no. Molly Shannon, she was great. Fallon, no. Kevin Nealon, no. Spade, no. Franken, maybe. Horatio Sands, Jim Brewer, I don't know. My guess would be either tell your wife person. It's either Jim Brewer, Horatio Sands, or Phil Hartman. Give us the answer, Archie Moses. Let's go, baby. Come on now. Come on now. Are all those people dead now? Horatio Sands is not dead. And then we'll get to, I want to tell you the states that have the biggest video game players. All right, well, let me know. Let me know. Jaffe on topic says, Aaron, did you see PlayStation tweet replying to Nintendo? No. What did they do? What did they say? Hang on. PlayStation did this? All right, let's see. PlayStation. Oh, they tweeted it was a busy day. Yeah. Yeah, well, it is. Tomorrow's going to be a very busy day. Okay. All right, let's move on. If Archie gets back to us, that would be great. I'd be curious. Okay, moving on, though. Mapping America's Video Game Obsession. Okay. Here are the most popular video games in America. The 5 most popular game types. Number 5, arcade games like Subway Surfers. Number 4, digital card games like Solitaire. Number 3, action games like Call of Duty. Number 2, interesting role-playing games like Final Fantasy. Number 1, puzzle games like Candy Crush. The states that play the most games. States that play the most console games. It's interesting. It's interesting. Florida, well, Virginia's number 5. Michigan is tied with Virginia for 5. New York is 4. Ohio is 3. West Virginia is 2. The number 1 state that plays the most console games and PC games is Florida. They don't like their phone games there, though. Arizona is the number 1 state in America that plays mobile phone games, right? Men play 78% on their consoles every week. Women play 69%. All right, here we go. This is, they say 72% of gamers have missed sleep for gaming, 40% have skipped food, 30% have canceled social plans. The 5 states most likely to lie about their game time, number 1 state's California. All right, here we go. This is the states. The biggest video game states are 5 is Utah. Number 4 is Ohio. Tied with number 4 Ohio is number 4 Nevada. Number 3 is Kansas. Number 2 is Washington State. The number 1 state in America that plays video games is Texas. Texas. They spend 17 hours a week on average playing video games. There you go. Interesting. Oh, okay. So the person I look like is Artie Lang. I see. Would you guys do you guys like lists? Do you want to give me one more? You want me to give you one more list? Retro Gamer got together and they said, hey, let's come up with the 25 best PS1 games of all time. Would you like me to tell you what they came up with? Or you're like, I don't like the list, Jaffe. Fuck your list. What do you think? What do you think? Come on now. Yeah, Artie was on Mad TV. You knew it was Texas? Yeah. I know. Yeah, I look like Artie Lang, but I got the nose, so. Because I think his nose kind of boom, right? All right. Okay, let's hear it. All right. Some of these I don't even know. The number 25 game from Retro Gamer is a game called Bishi Bashi Special from Konami in 98. Multiplayer game anyone pick up and play. I guess it's a mini game collection. Never fucking heard of it. Street Fighter Alpha 3 is number 24. Number 23 is Tenchu Stealth Assassins. That's interesting. That game does not hold up. I've played it recently. It does not hold up. Number 22, Spider-Man. That was a great game from Neversoft. Number 21, Einhander. That does hold up. That absolutely does hold up. I played it recently, but I never loved it to begin with. But it's still compelling. Number 20, Ridge Racer. It's Ridge Racer. Ridge 4. Ridge Racer Type 4. Number 19, Final Fantasy Tactics. That's fair. That makes a lot of sense. Number 18, Twisted Metal World Tour. Look at me. We made a game in there. We got one in there. Nice. Number 17 is Time Crisis. Number 16 is Driver. Number 15 is Vagrant Story. That seems to make sense. That tracks. 14 is Spyro the Dragon. Eddie T, you bought Spider-Man a week ago for $180. 13 is Tomb Raider. That seems low or high. It seems like it should be higher on the list. Oddworld is number 12. Really? Wipeout, number 11. Here we go. These are the top 10 PS1 games from Games Radar from their Retro Games site. Okay. Number 10, Parappa the Rapper. Okay. Number 9, Silent Hill. You know Dustin over on Sacred Symbols and Last Media Standing or Last Media, whatever. I always get their company name mixed up with their show name. But he never played Silent Hill 2, and I've never really played it. So I'm going to play it, he's going to play it, and then we're going to do a show together talking about what it feels like to play Silent Hill in brand new in 2022. Last Stand Media, that's what it's called. Silent Hill's number 9. Number 8, Gran Turismo 2. Fair enough. Number 2 is always better than number 1. That's how it works. Number 7 is Crash Bandicoot. I thought that would be towards the top. Number 6, Tekken 3. 5 is Tony Hawk Pro Skater 2. Number 2 is always better than number 1, like I said. Number 4, Resident Evil 2. Number 2 is always better than number 1. Well, I'm not going to hurry, Mr. K. I'm playing Elden Ring right now, but, you know, we have to finish it exactly the same time. Silent Hill. He says Dustin's almost done with Silent Hill. Number 3, Final Fantasy VII. That makes sense. Number 2, Castlevania Symphony of the Night. That makes sense. The number 1, it's got to be Metal Gear. It's got to be Metal Gear. The number 1 game of PlayStation, according to Games Radar Retro site, PS1 era is Metal Gear Solid. There you go. All right, not too shabby. Not too shabby. The very last thing I want to tell you about is I don't understand. Randy Pitchford wants you to buy his horrible used shirts. There's a development scholarship tied to not Gearbox. It's tied to an auction for game design. I'm trying to see what the charity is. They're a charity that they work with to get scholarships to send people to colleges and help people learn to design and make video games. Okay? And you can buy his shirts for charity. Why? Who the fuck would want? I mean, I don't know Randy that well. I've met him a handful of times. He seems like a good egg. But maybe concept art from Borderlands? Okay. But your shirt? Why would anybody want one? It's not like you're Madonna or Taylor Swift or The Rock or someone that's like, you know, oh, I want to hang that up. That was The Rock's shirt that he wore in San Andreas or something. I mean, I like Randy's great and he's very successful, but you're a guy who runs a video game company. The fuck do I want your shirt for? I don't know if any of these have sold. They're all look like, well, the most has like 8 bids. Approximate value $400. Randy Pitchford, if you're spending $400 on a shirt, you're spending way too much goddamn money on shirts if that's what you're spending. Jesus. This guy got, okay, reserved for Carolyn and Matthew. Buy it now for $1,200. Can you imagine if I gave them $1,200 and said, I want this shirt? Go fuck yourself. I'm not doing it. Fellas, that's been Gabbing and Games for September 12th, 2022. I'll tell you what, I appreciate you being here. I appreciate you spending some time with me. Lively conversations. Hope you had a good time. Hope you give the stream, if you liked it, a like. Share it with your friends. Tell people about it. Consider a sub. Consider a membership. All that good stuff. But in the meantime, maybe I'll be streaming later tonight. Basement Radio Arcade Podcast. Hang on. Basement sent me earlier today. I meant to get back to you. I haven't had a chance to. I think there's the Iron Lords podcast this weekend. And they were talking to some guy who was saying a lot of people in development are now kind of turning on Sony and they're realizing that Xbox is an actual alternative. And so a lot of this kind of Sony treated us shitty in the past and they're not really good guys and all that stories are coming out. And he was asking me, did I find that true? Did my experience with them track with that? I mean, the clip you sent me didn't have any specifics, right? So it was all very broad about how Sony is not the nice company they say they are. No company is, but regardless, but they weren't specific. So I don't really know specifically what he was talking about. What I can tell you is my experience working with them and for them was always, even when I failed them and spent a lot of their money and it didn't make their money back, was always positive. And the way I saw them treat others, I mean, they played hardball, but they were never slimy about it. They were always kind. At least my experience with him. Now, I can't tell you what the head attorney did to people in this. I don't know. Maybe he was a total, fucking shark and he was mean about it. I don't know. But I never had any of those experiences. So I appreciate it, Basement, but it didn't resonate with me. So if he gave specifics on the show though, I'd love to hear those. Maybe I can speak to those. Jaffe, what about Sony buying studios to keep games away from Sega Saturn and then closing the studios? I've never heard of that strategy. Do I think Sony would buy studios to keep them from making games from Sega? Probably. But would they do it with the intention of closing it? No. I never encountered that. My guess is probably what would have happened is Sony might have seen a developer and they said, I know they're going to do a deal with Sega. Let's fucking buy them. And then we'll give them, 6 to 8 to 10 months to pitch us something really cool. And if it turns out that we don't like it and they can't be competitive partners, then we'll shut them down. And I'm not saying what you're saying is wrong. Maybe Sony was sitting there, twirling their evil mustache going, let's buy this studio and shut them down because we don't give a fuck about the people. We just want to fuck Sega. I mean, sure, but I never heard anything like that. And I never met anybody at Sony that I ever intuited that was that kind of person. Doesn't mean it's not, but I don't have any of that evidence. So, I'll tell you what, Mr. K, I will watch the Atomic Heart trailer. I don't want to watch it right now. I'm tired. I'm burnt. I will watch it on the next Proper Gabbing and Games. I will make that one of the stories. I will say, Mr. K will not stop whining about the goddamn cockadoodie Atomic Heart. It's like his fucking girlfriend or something. I don't fucking know. So we will watch it and then we will mock him mercilessly because it's probably stupid. I hear it's actually pretty good. So I will watch it. Good night, Alan Kane. Good night, everybody. Good to see you. Thanks for hanging out. I'll see you soon. Bye, everyone.